click the button. Great. All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of the OpenJS Foundation Cross-Project Council meeting. Today is the 10th of March. Thanks everybody for joining. Please don't forget to add your name to the Google Doc. I will paste that in there again, and as usual, you can help take notes. It's much appreciated. So to get things started, should we check in on any announcements? Joy, are you with us?
Yep, a few quick announcements. Just a reminder that we have the Collab Summit planning meeting today, immediately following this meeting at 1 p.m. Eastern. Following that immediately is the standards working group meeting at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then I want to also share that next Tuesday in the morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we are having the marketing meeting. And of course, everyone is welcome to join that. We also want to remind everyone that the summit registrations and the OpenJS World registrations are open. Encourage you to get those in and also book your hotel as soon as possible. That is it.
Great. I know this is probably on everyone's mind, so I'll just ask, we're still just kind of moving along with our events and the coronavirus challenges that are out there.
Yeah, hey, this is Robin. Yeah, I mean, we are very, very concerned about the coronavirus and are monitoring it closely with our friends at the Linux Foundation. So for the latest information, if you go to the OpenJS World event website, you'll find right in the banner underneath the OpenJS World logo, a novel coronavirus update, and that's updated weekly, if not more, so you can see the status. But right now we're moving forward as planned and everything is on track.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll add too that I have OpenJS open office hours on Thursday. So if anyone wants to join and hang out, that would be great.
One more question for Robin. When are the CFP confirmation or rejections going out?
Let's see, the committee started reviewing last week. I'll have to go back and check my work back schedule. I can do that while we talk.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Mateo. Yeah, I was just going to say real quickly, I have OpenJS open office hours on Thursday. If anybody wants to come and hang out, that's helpful. And if anybody knows anyone who's interested in getting involved in the work that we do or work on any of the projects, send them my way. And I did a session with Wes Todd last week or 2 weeks ago on Express, and I think it went really well. And if any of the projects want to do something similar, please let me know. I'm working with Kai from ESLint to do one in 2 weeks, and I'm open to helping out in that regard. So please feel free to reach out. Cool. Anything else before we get into the agenda? Great. Anything from the board? See that in our doc here. Check in.
I think, the public board meeting was streamed yesterday. There was some details on the project-directed funding, which we have an issue to cover later on, so I think we can cover it under that.
Great.
Otherwise, I gave an update on, a number of the CPC things, but those were all things we're up to date on as well.
Cool. Cool. I hope that the public session went well. I wanted to join, but that's good. Hoping for something. All right, so jumping into agenda, the first item on the agenda is the travel fund questions for project community members. I am assuming that there's really nothing new here. What we're hoping for is that somebody will take these what's written here and work it into a PR, and then we can kind of continue any conversation there and update the documentation around the travel fund. This is a really good first issue if anybody wants to get involved.
I had a question on this one, Joe. I'm so sorry. Did we want to also merge or include documentation about this on the Summit repository itself, or are we just looking for a PR on the CPC repo?
That's a good question.
I think at least a pointer would probably be interested on the Summit site. I don't know if you want to have a full copy, but.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is something we talk about in the next meeting, the Summit meeting, figure out where it makes sense. But I think for starters, we update the travel fund here in the CPC repo and go from there. All right. And anything else on this issue, and any volunteers? Promote Anton here. All right, well, I will maybe think of some volunteers and reach out to you specifically if you're on the call. Great, so we'll move on then. The next issue in the agenda is from the CPC repo. This is projects with Windows and Mac installers. I believe there's been some emails and Slack messages about this. Does Brian or anyone else have an update on this? So is Brian even on the call? I don't know.
Brian wasn't able to make it today. I'll just share that we sent that survey out. We had a few responses. Of course, we want to leave that open a few more days and make sure we get a good, response rate. But any questions or any, needs on that, just let Brian or myself, or I guess Michael Dawson too, know.
Great, thank you, Jory.
I had a question about that, or kind of tangential. So for Webkin, we don't have an installer, but we have like several venues to publish. We have the VS Code extension, and we also have the browser extensions. And I think it would be good to have someone or an email from the foundation or something like that to reduce the buzz factor in case something happens. So is that something that should be contemplated also in this or related?
When you say an email, like, is this for, like, do you have, so go ahead.
So it depends on the system. Sometimes it's like there is only one email account that can publish. So we are using like a distribution email. Some others is like we can have like several administrators. So it's, yeah, it depends on the system, if it's for the Firefox extension or if it's VS Code or whatever. But okay. I think that it will be, we've had some problems in the past where someone was on vacation and we needed to do a release and we couldn't make it. And right now we have something that kind of works, but maybe it will be also good to have someone from, or an email or someone from the JS Foundation in case something happens to the whole team, like, trying to reduce the buzz factor.
Is it that you need to send something from that email or receive something at the email?
You need to authenticate.
Okay, so it's like you basically have an email, like you have a user ID and you log in with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's just that in some places you can have like several admins and in some others you cannot. So in NPM, there are several admins, Firefox as well, VS Code, I'm not sure, and Chrome, I believe that you only have one account.
Yeah, I think we talked with Brian before about using LastPass for that. So that's certainly something in that area. This one was specifically around like whether the generating any certificates or anything that you need to publish would be managed. But that seems to fit in the same kind of thing in my mind anyway.
Okay, so I should talk with Brian and Jory about this.
Maybe if you respond to the survey, but I forget whether there's a place to write that in and say, hey, but we don't have this, but we do have that.
Yeah, I answered the survey already, and I think I mentioned it.
Yeah, well, maybe reach out to Brian and CC Jory and Michael, I suppose.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. Cool. All right, so moving on, the next issue is the OpenJS Collaboration Network. Michael proposed this a couple weeks ago, and we've discussed it some. Do you have any updates or?
Yeah, no, I just typed the update there. I said, agreed on the next steps the last time, so I'll take the action to draft some initial changes to the governance and potentially the charter, and we can remove from the agenda till then, which I've already done.
Okay, great. Cool. Well, it's exciting. So, I look forward to the progress there. Thank you, Michael. Moving on to the next issue, 472. This is actually closed. This is opening nominations for the next year's voting CPC members. Jory opened up issue number 488, which I will paste into the notes and the Slack here, the Zoom chat, which is, so 488 is, nomination sought for 2020 and 2021 voting CPC membership. We're looking for folks to self-nominate, and they can do so by emailing me. There's more details and information here. And then also, I know that we've started to reach out to folks in the Node project, both on the TSC, and I'm not sure, Tierney, if we've gotten something on ComCom side yet, but we're moving forward on the Node space.
We have, there's an issue up.
Perfect, thank you, Tierney. So yeah, there's progress here. Does anyone have any questions or need any more information here to discuss this further?
We might tag it for the agenda just so that it shows up as a reminder, people, for 488, since it's not on. Does that make sense?
Yep, I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, take a look at that. I like to remind folks too that there's not a lot of difference between voting and regular members. So if there's an interest, regular members works as well too. So we just encourage folks to get involved. Cool. So moving on, the next issue is 469. This is populate the code of conduct panel. I had a action item to kind of move forward on this, but I have not done anything this week on this. I don't know if anybody else has any progress related to this.
Yeah, we were asking folks to self-nominate, and we have not had broad interest. So we're going to start doing some direct outreach. So if you still are interested, please reach out to Jory or me. Otherwise, we'll be seeking out a diverse set of folks to participate on this panel.
Great. Yeah, and I'll try to get reach out to some spaces in the Node community as well to see if we can get some folks involved.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else on that issue? The next issue, this is pull request 414. This is, I think, on Toby's plate. I was trying to get some time to help move this forward, but since Toby's here, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Yes, so I have a bit more time this week to handle this, and it's something that I actually need to get moving. So this one and 386 right below should get my attention this week. And I'll sync with Brian, who reached out last week when I was on holidays, that he wanted to move that forward too. So hopefully you're going to actually see action on this time.
Great. People get busy or sick or what have you, so no worries. I'll say too, if you want to focus on the copyright guidance first, and if I get time, I'll work on the post-graduation checklist, but feel free to ping me if you move on to that one.
All right, I'll do that. Thank you. Yep.
And so the next issue on the agenda is the add post-graduation checklist, pull request 386, as we were just saying. We'll try to get progress on that one this week as well. The next issue on the agenda is responsible security disclosures. I'm happy to say we've got Merchant on the call today, and he opened up a pull request number 49 today, and it looks awesome, but I will let him comment on it.
Yeah, so I opened the PR that I think at this point has more questions than answers, but I would love some feedback. And the primary question that sort of came to my mind when I was writing all of those things up is like how I would love some feedback, like how much support and guidance are we sort of in a position to offer to individual projects as a foundation? And on the other side of the scale, like how much do we expect the projects to be handling themselves, right? I think there's a spectrum of possible options there. There are some projects that have very mature responsible security processes and way to accept reports, and there are projects that don't. And the primary goal here would be to bring everyone to like a minimum consistent standard, and we could iterate from there. But right now, it would be awesome to get broader feedback on this PR. I will post a request for more comments in the Foundation Slack later today.
Yeah, I would even say, you may want to post those questions individually into the PR, if it makes sense, into the actual, if there's somewhere in the code, and then we can, have a bit of a conversation there as well. That's a good place to track some of these thoughts. And the good thing is this is a proposal, so we're at stage 0. We can certainly kind of move forward on things and continue the conversation for, another stage or so.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I think on the first question, like we don't have a team of like 5 people who's going to be able to start doing things for the project. So my initial thought would be like, what kind of education and resources can we provide to let the projects help themselves?
Mm-hmm.
And then out of that, if there's like common tooling or things like, things that are going to be significantly easier for the foundation to manage, like, we're talking about, say, the certificate registrations and stuff like that. If there are things that fall into those categories, try and keep our eyes open for that.
Right. So one of the things I was thinking about, there are projects that have, for example, their own project on HackerOne.
Yep.
And HackerOne is, I learned, the sponsor of the foundation, and they have their offering for eligible open source projects. So a simple thing we could do is to open an umbrella HackerOne project for the rest of the projects that would be willing to opt in, and use that as a vulnerability disclosure platform. I think that could be a workable option, so that we don't need a 5-person team, as you mentioned, but perhaps we could have like dedicated security contacts from individual projects, sort of having access to that. And this is the kind of discussion that I would love to get going on that PR.
I see Mike Samuel has his hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I guess some people, their first exposure to the responsible disclosure process is when they actually realize they need incident response help. And sometimes being very upfront as to kind of the limits of how much help we can provide on the incident response front avoids kind of unmeetable expectations. Is there some way we could, is it worth raising kind of the need to have some kind of incident response and some clarity on what the foundation can provide as far as incident response in something that projects come across early, like the I guess the graduation checklist.
Yeah, and particularly depending on the different, for impact projects, we can probably have higher expectations or higher hopes than for some of the, the incubators, right? on that front.
Right. So I was thinking that for like graduating from incubation, like we should expect some minimum, like a very, very minimum level of infrastructure, like having a security policy on GitHub. And then as you say, the more mature the project, the higher the expectations could be.
I mean, like having just a plain security policy, that doesn't sound like too high a bar even for incubator projects. But I guess, you know, those are the kind of things we can discuss in that proposal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to thank you for creating that proposal, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with the AM team to see if they have comments to make on it.
Yeah, thank you, Toby, for
yeah, definitely
keeping that conduit going there. And thank you, Martin, for opening the PR too. Appreciate it. Jordan, do you have a question here in the chat?
Yeah, it just kind of seems to me like in general, one of the benefits of the foundation is providing the sort of resources that I might otherwise have if my project were part of a large company, like incident response. So like if I were a project by myself and I mishandle an incident, like it's a disaster for my project perhaps, but like it's also understandable because I don't have any backing. But if I'm part of the foundation and I mishandle an incident, that seems like it would reflect very poorly on the foundation as well. And I would expect, if I witnessed this from afar, I would expect a project in a foundation to have these sorts of resources available. So I was curious what sort of limits you were referring to, Mike.
The main difference between incident response and kind of general security consulting is that incident response is a 24-hour thing. And so you pretty much have to run a pager rotation. And if we have enough people to run a pager rotation and have, that's great. But if we don't, then, at least listing for where people can look and see if somebody's online and that kind of stuff is good.
Okay, so you're not talking about a limitation on the like response itself, only the availability of it and like the 24-hourness part.
Yeah, it's kind of the worst way to do incident response is when you're stressed and you don't have a playbook. And so, that tends to lead to overreaction. But that's exactly how people feel if this is the first time they've done incident response. It's kind of, oh my God, I'm under attack. Something I thought about my code is simply not true. And, I need to do something. That's the kind of, if you've got something that's being actively exploited in the wild, it can happen at any time of day, any time of week.
Okay, I think that clarifies. Thank you.
Yeah, so I took a note to self to add a question about incident response into the actual PR, so that we have a space to discuss this as well.
Sorry, this was not. I was not intending to scope creep. I was just this discussion prompted some other thoughts on where we might be, where people might be looking for guidance and where we should try and fill that gap.
Right, but I think it would be, even if we say like we don't provide any sort of incident response capability, that I think is just good setting of expectations.
Yep. And do you need to clarify policies and best practices versus engineering support and how that's realized?
I think there's probably a bunch of different things, like security reporting is one of them, you know, incident response is another. We should probably come up with a list.
Yeah.
And I guess the questions that's coming to mind, do we think that Mike, Samuel, do you think that we should be looking now to sort of form a group across the projects to talk about what that list is? And
I think, I guess, is this a question, you know, I think that Jordan is right that this is a shared concern and that it has the potential to, you know, how projects handle incidences has the potential to reflect on the OpenJS Foundation. Yep. And we do have some resources, but maybe this is a question that's best kind of put to project leads as to what they could use in the short term and what they could use in the long term.
Right, I was just exploring, like, we've had discussions whether we should, you know, spin up a security working group or security team to start discussing some of these issues. This is, you know, the security reporting guidelines are a great start, but you just mentioned, you know, there are some other things we should probably be discussing.
Yeah,
and I'm just wondering, you know, can we get interested people to come together to sort of maybe push that further a little faster?
Yeah, that I would be happy to contribute to such a group. Okay. And I think, yeah, maybe it is, you know, there is a cluster of related concept things like reporting incident response that you know, kind of people tend to have a little bit of expertise in both of them or none of it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll take the action to start thinking about how we pull together a team, and I'll keep you in the loop, and I assume Marcin as well, and we'll talk to the existing team in the Node project as well, and we'll probably send some stuff out to the other projects.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Even aligns with the collaboration network.
Yeah, it certainly fits into that, so it could be like one of the first proposals, for example.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Cool. Anything more on this one? All right. Well, thanks again for everybody being involved, and we'll go forward. The next issue on the agenda is 185. This is add admin policy docs. I opened up a pull request. Let's see, where is it? Pull request 443. A couple of folks have chipped in to kind of push this one forward with me. I don't think there are any outstanding questions. I wanted to highlight that in Ben Mitchell making some changes, he updated some links from the governance. He just kind of cleaned them up, but it is touching the governance doc, so I don't know if that's a concern, if I should try to back those out, or if anybody has any.
Governance, you know, basically requires a certain period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally just moving links around, which I can even back them out, and if that's important, we can.
I'm just looking though. When did this open? So it's.
Yeah, it has been open for a while.
Right. So if it basically says like 2 weeks without objections, right? And I don't think we say since the last change necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it'll. I'm just saying if it's been open that long, you know, there's a bunch of approvals. It may not slow you down anyway.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there was awareness of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be happy to merge this in at some point soon. I'll leave it open for a little bit longer, but if folks want to take a look at it and just double check that everything looks good, that would be great. And Mike Samuel and Ben Mitchell, we have a little bit of a conversation here, but I think it's resolved. But if you want to just double check it, that'd be cool. And I'll merge it soon. And then we'll have, this will provide documentation around GitHub org management policy, as well as working groups and you know, how to transfer repos into the org and such. So some admin policy. Cool. Moving on, we are to the final CPC issue in the agenda, which is the project directed funding. Michael, I don't know if you want to give us an update on this.
Yeah, that's right. Since Brian's not here, so you know there were different aspects of project directed funding. The one that was shared in the meeting yesterday was around projects. So companies who are members of the foundation wanting to provide additional funds to a particular project. And I don't think it's not up on the website yet.
I have it open. Do
you have it open? Yeah. Why don't you go over
I
it? That would be great.
Okay. This is Robin.
Just don't want to get it wrong. I think I remember, but.
Okay. Yeah. So the board just recently approved the policy accepting directed funds. So it reads, OpenJS Foundation members who are currently on their annual dues may contribute additional amounts of incremental monetary funding to specific OpenJS initiatives, such as roadshows, CPC activities, or project infrastructure. Directed monetary funding activities must be approved by the OpenJS Executive Director and are subject to the following limits. Platinum members, there's no cap on directed monetary funds. Gold members are capped at 50% of annual dues amounts, and silver members are capped at 25% of annual dues amounts. And the ED, which is, and the board, the board may approve exceptions on a case-by-case basis. So that was just recently approved.
And some of the rationale is, you know, there's been discussions in the past that, you know, you don't necessarily want companies only funding a particular project. So this is an increment over the base fees, you know, ensures that we still have funding for all of the projects while allowing, you know, companies to go in above and beyond when it makes sense to, you know, contribute direct dollars as well to a project.
So does that mean that you have to be a part of the foundation to contribute directly to a project?
Through this mechanism, right? So this is this is put as a member benefit. And so if you're a member, you can contribute, the dollars will flow through the foundation will help manage them. The other part is that around, you know, directed funding has more to do with, you know, the crowdsourcing platforms and stuff. That one, we're still working through the recommendations that will be made on that front. So that's a different path where dollars could be contributed, but this is for, you know, you want to get dollars going through the foundation and get it to a specific project versus all of the projects.
For the crowdsourcing one, are you working with the projects that currently have that crowdsourcing mechanism to make sure that their needs are being kind of met?
I would say we're currently at an inventory and analysis stage, just kind of cataloging where everyone is right now, and then seeing how best we can support and what guidelines we need to implement.
Okay.
Yeah, would love to talk about this more. Toby speaking here, as on the AMP side, they have like very specific requirements for this.
Yeah, and I know Electron has it as well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and that's on I know other projects as well.
That's on the crowdfunding side?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And then not your common crowdfunding issues. They're more how to provide funds to dependencies of the project.
Right, that's not receiving funds, that's giving funds, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this one seems like a big thing to work through. The other avenue is that is that a common need? Do we see the need of directing funds through the foundation being requested? Just curious.
I think we believe that was what AMP and Electron were asking for as well at one point. Okay. I'm not sure if that's still the case through once things have been clarified, but it has been discussed in the past about companies saying, well, you know, I'm more interested in funding one project versus another.
Yep.
So this at least provides guidance on that front.
This seems like it overlaps a bit with the way Tidelift works as well, where you like give a fee and your dependency graph, and then all the transitive dependencies that you use as well get some of that funding, in the spirit of like trying to make sure that it's not just like the projects you know about that you're using, it's that benefit, it's also the downstream ones. And that seems like if my project has funds, it seems like I would want to support my dependencies to make sure that my project continues to work, and that like there may be only a few projects with funds, and VM is certainly not one of them, but like it seems like a very important thing to kind of have a process around.
Yeah, precisely. It's an insurance, essentially. I mean, you can look at it that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lot to work through on that side of things. So
that said, I mean, can I just take a minute to say that I'm super happy that you were able to move forward with the directed funding, and I'm very glad that there was a positive outcome to this conversation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I concur.
Yeah, and it sounds like, Robin, as part of that inventory, we need to make sure we talk to Electron and AMP, the AMP projects.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Great. All right. Well, I'm happy to hear progress there. So thanks everybody involved in pushing that forward. The next item on the list, we get into the standards repo. The first issue is chartering a standards team. I'm not sure where this is sitting. Mike or Miles or Jory, anyone have any context on this one?
Yeah, I can chime in. So we're still waiting on the governance documentation to land in this repo.
Got it.
We talked about that last time, so we're still blocked on that. And then we have a meeting later today, and we need to review the copy that we want to put there about scope. So my hope would be that like that scope doc can probably get sorted out in today's meeting, and then we would be looking for those other docs to land here before we can really do anything.
Okay, great. So I will land those other docs, and I feel like I should maybe leave them open for another day since I raised them today, and then we can merge things forward. If that makes sense. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Miles. The next is joining the Unicode Consortium, which I think, if I remember correctly.
Actually, yeah, I misspoke on one detail last week. So legal approved. I submitted the application. We just need that final response back from the Unicode, which we expect. As soon as we receive that, then we'll have our public communication.
Okay, great.
Okay, and
excellent.
I'll update the
issue. Yeah, I'll give you the link in the Zoom. The Zoom
there it
chat.
is, 43.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah.
Cool. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Do we have anything else that we want to discuss, or should we call it a wrap? Popping into the pull requests. Oh, I'm actually in the wrong
Mateo, I did paste in the schedule because we bumped it a week. So Friday, March 27th, the CFP folks will be notified, and then we plan to publish the schedule the week of April 6th.
Thank you very much. That's actually very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, I don't see too much else on pull requests or issues that I feel like we should bring up. So maybe we just get back 13 minutes of our day. We can all go wash our hands and be safe.
Yeah, great turnout today. Thanks everyone for
Yeah.
participating.
Yep, take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
everybody.
Take
Later.
care, folks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.